Hi everyone, today we are talking about SAD, which stands for Seasonal Affective Disorder. It's not as actually classified as depression, but it's sort of a type of depression that comes in a seasonal pattern, usually in winter, but it can occur for some people in the summertime. So it's thought that around 1 in 3 people are affected by SAD, and it's believed that sort of 40% more women than men are likely to suffer, and more in the younger generations than the older. Summer SAD is around sort of 10% of that. So what sort of symptoms would you expect to see with winter SAD?
Well, we talk about winter blues, don't we? So the first thing is people feel like they have low mood. They're not really interested in everyday activities. They feel irritable. Things that are similar to depression, like feelings of despair, guilt, worthlessness, feeling tired, wanting to eat carbs. I definitely feel like that. I don't know if that's a symptom of SAD, but definitely more carbs in the winter. Loss of libido, so a big change in terms of what's happening. And for summer SAD, which I didn't even know was a thing, some of the symptoms can include loss of appetite, weight loss, difficulty sleeping, agitation, and also anxiety. So a real mix.
I think it's quite interesting to kind of keep a diary of these symptoms and see if they, to sort of recognize whether it's something that you do suffer from, and see whether it comes with the seasons and then goes again. And it's a good way to kind of monitor your response and then being able to sort of do something about it. So I think that's quite useful if you start to pick up on some of these symptoms. Is it something that you've ever experienced?
I definitely do feel it in the winter, when there's, the sun isn't out, you pull your curtain back, and it makes such a difference when the sun's out. But then you have to make a conscious effort to do certain things to keep your mood elevated and not to feel so down about those things. And you're so right, keeping, knowing when those patterns occur mean that then you can have a bit of a plan of action. And if you spot those things and you realize, yes, in the winter I do feel like that, you can take certain steps to help avoid it.
Yeah, I agree. I almost have a sort of feeling of impending dread. But I'm also thinking at the end of it all, spring's coming, and actually not thinking of everything sort of dying, but kind of, is just sort of hibernating and reviving. Yeah. It's actually sort of gathering energy ready for the next season. But it's interesting because a friend of mine, I'm like not looking forward to this change particularly, whereas she is really excited about the drop in temperatures and the changing colour of the leaves, which is beautiful, I would agree. So we're very much opposite to that, but it makes a good point of discussion, I think, because she very much finds summer difficult. So yeah, I'll come on to that really. So what it is in particular that causes winter SAD. So the reduced sunlight, which can affect the production of melatonin, which helps you sleep, serotonin, which regulates your mood, and it also affects your circadian rhythm, so your body clock. And in the case of summer SAD, the reduced hours of darkness can affect your sleep. And also the warmer weather can mean, reduced clothing, etc., which can affect body image, particularly if you're sort of self-conscious about scars or weight, or there's lots of different reasons why people experience this. Other things that affect SAD is, particularly in winter, is how far you live from the equator, so how much of a difference you get between daylight and nighttime hours. Family history, there is a sort of genetic correlation there. If you already suffer from depression or bipolar, and also it's more common, as we've mentioned, in women than men and in the younger population. So not only the sort of symptoms that we've mentioned already, but it can also potentially result in sort of social withdrawal, potentially problems at work or school, substance abuse, you know, if you want to try to make yourself feel better, anxiety or eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts. So, you know, although it's not classified as depression, it is something to take seriously, and where we can, to do something to help ourselves. So what would you recommend that we could do?
Well, the first and most obvious thing, especially in the winter, is exposing yourself to light. So if you can get in the winter sun, something to note though, you don't get your adequate vitamin D from the winter sun. It's to do with how much UV light exposure we have. We only get that in the summer months, which is between April and September, which is why you have to supplement from October onwards with vitamin D. But you know, the sunshine makes me feel good. Yep, get in the sun if you can. Don't use tanning beds though, because whilst they do increase light exposure, that UV rays is harmful, and it's not something we recommend. So try and keep it natural if you can. Or you can get a light box, which is something you can have at your desk. I remember I used to work with a girl who used to have one, and we used to share it around the office, because we were not sat near windows and winter was really difficult. I mentioned vitamin D, so definitely check your vitamin D, and it's now government guideline to take vitamin D in the winter. And the recommendation is between 400 and 1,000 micrograms, and you want to get the D3 type of vitamin D. But it's important, you know, you said that people should recognize that this is a something to take seriously, and monitoring your symptoms and monitoring what's happening with you is important, because you could potentially overlook things like food allergies, gut dysbiosis, inflammation. You know, if people are thinking, well, I'm struggling to sleep, or I'm in a bit of a bad mood, I'm gonna drink more, I'm gonna do certain things, they're potentially causing more damage. So you do want to be careful about what you're doing, and yeah, keep an eye on your patterns of behavior and what else might be going on. So you know get your thyroid checked. Are there any other hormone imbalances going on? If it's energy, you know, what your iron levels like, what's your B12 like. So just having a conversation with your GP will potentially clear up some of that, and important things to remember. And then there's basic things like just eating well, unprocessed whole foods. Exercise is something we bang on about all the time, but there's so much research to show that not only is it good for our bones, but it's good for our mood. It keeps your heart rate up, which is great for heart health. And it's great for releasing stress. So you know, exercise should be part of a healthy regime.
And if you do it outside, you're ticking the light, you know, the light box as well, the other kind of light box. You know, even if it's cloudy, you're getting that light exposure. So if you can exercise outdoors as well, then you're 2 in 1.
Yep, absolutely. Getting adequate sleep, you know, it's basic stuff really. And then just being careful about how much sugar you're eating. You know, if you're feeling low and you're opting for sugar and you're eating too much sugar, it's kind of turns into a vicious cycle. And then managing things like stress, and you know, supplementing when relevant. So yeah, there's lots of things to do, but going back to your point about just knowing what's affecting you as an individual, and then taking the action that's relevant, is going to be the right step.
Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of like sort of controlling your stress levels, I think that's very personal as well. You know, for some people, exercising is a way of kind of managing their stress levels, but also just, you know, walking or meditating, or, you know, journaling, writing down your thoughts, or doing some breathing exercises, or, you know, yoga, whatever it is to you that helps you to kind of just
wind down.
Yeah. And also, you know, speak to people about how you're feeling. It's very easy when you feel low to sort of isolate yourself, which is only going to exacerbate things. So try not to do that. Also, and this is a really kind of from our kind of coaching stance, I suppose, which we'll come on to in future episodes, but setting yourself realistic and achievable goals. You know, how often do we want to move these massive mountains and then feel incredibly daunted and we can't achieve it? Well, that's because we're trying to, you know, do something that's, you know, unachievable at this moment, but if we do all the little incremental steps, then we can achieve it further down the line. So I think that's really important, to set small achievable targets, and you can do that on your own or working with a coach. Another point is just having a routine that enforces kind of a positive health practice. You know, get up at the same time, make sure you have a shower every day, make sure you get dressed. I mean, how easy is it working from home to stay in your gym jams? But you know, that's not going to help lift your mood and feel part of the world. No. Eating 3 regular meals like we talked about, you know, wholesome unprocessed food, exercising daily, turning off the blue light, you know, a couple of hours before bed, like we've spoken about in our sleep podcast, and keep, like you say, keeping track of your symptoms, but knowing if it's something that you are going to struggle with as the seasons change, then plan ahead for it, you know, and know that, you know, not to isolate yourself, and try not to resort to things like alcohol and drugs, as this can exacerbate the symptoms. And it could also interact with medications if you're taking them, if you're on antidepressants, for instance, already. So yeah, hopefully that's some useful tips for you. In terms of summer SAD, same sort of thing, plan ahead with work, exercise in the cooler hours of the day, use blackout curtains to kind of get more of a balance between day and nighttime hours, lighter blankets, fans, air conditioning. Light therapy can also be useful in summer. And try not to put yourself under pressure to be like everybody else, because I know, you know, my friends and I can't quite understand how she can not like the summer and vice versa, but actually nobody is like anybody else. And don't put pressure on yourself to think, you know, I'm such a weirdo because I don't like this season or whatever. You know, just do something to support yourself, and rather than kind of chastise yourself. So it can also help to do things like CBT and other talking therapies. So,
yeah, that's such a good point, I think. And then there's some simple things that work for some people, and other people need something different. So it's really understanding what is important to you, what works for you. Yeah, and give it a go, and understand that it is a thing. It's not just something in your head, because I think sometimes not knowing what's going on is also scary and also stressful. So knowing that, yeah, it is something legitimate, it's not something you're making up, can help you deal with it better. So hopefully that's cleared that up. So Jen, why don't you tell everyone what we're talking about next time?
Well, I'm very excited to say that we are going to be doing a podcast on coaching. So we may even throw in a little live example of coaching, but yeah, we're both coaches as well as nutritional therapists, so it's an angle that we'd really like to talk about and show how it can be incredibly beneficial. And as we've touched on today, you know, even in instances of SAD, you know, you can use coaching. So yeah, really excited about that.
Yay. And if there's anything in particular about coaching that you'd like us to cover, let us know. But otherwise, we will see you next time.
See you guys.